It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Aggronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belgast, and let's start the show. Hey folks, it's that time again. Time for another episode of AggroChat. This is episode 314. Tonight I'm joined by Ammo.
Hello.
Kodra.
I'm the fiercest 4-year-old you've ever met.
Damn.
What? Hello.
Thalen?
I have no idea.
I'm just confused, but...
Hi there.
Okay. That's... Care to explain, Kodra?
Sure. So I'm playing a lot of Crusader Kings right now.
That, yeah.
And I had a succession. I'm going to say go poorly. It turns out I wasn't keeping a good eye on things, and I am Czech. Czech have a great benefit where their succession is the oldest member of the house, which means you always get somebody who's pretty stable to be your next king. The problem is they don't live very long because they're old. But then I had one of my line of succession became Hungarian. They are partition, which means that all of my titles get split out to like the children, and you have to go and like reconquer them. But then the next in line, and his next in line, his heir was a 4-year-old, and he died as soon as he became king. So I'm a 4-year-old, and I am not what you would consider terribly powerful at this point, but I had a standing army at war with Poland, and every single one of my vassals was like, ooh, a 4-year-old's our liege, time to rebel and become independent. So I have systematically taken that army from Poland, brought him back, crushed the rebellion, and I've been going down the line and imprisoning the lot of them.
God, I haven't played a ton of the game, but I've played enough. And a death is really like walking into a room where somebody's been playing a board game, slamming your hands down on the table, and then just playing where the pieces land.
Yeah.
Because, like, I was so close to sewing up Ireland, because I was just doing the tutorial, and then I died. And all shit went south. Like, I had decided, I'm going to make a petty kingdom, and I'm going to give it to somebody that, I trust, and, it's all still me, it's fine. But then the death happens, and they can't hold on to that territory, and it gets taken over by the last remaining group that finally decides, oh, hey, we should unify, because this one house has basically taken over all of Ireland through spurious claims. Because, I went the combat route of, I'm just going to have them fabricate a claim, because, we're all family here in Ireland, right?
Yup. Hey, what I should say, you should try playing somebody who's tribal, Bell. You would like playing a tribal leader.
Probably.
Play the Vikings.
That sounds amazing.
No claim fabrication necessary.
Yeah, you just say, ooh, I like it. It's mine.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, I was so close. And then I finally, like, thankfully... Okay, so the other side effect that I ran into was my first dude was wrathful. That's real beneficial when you're in a combat situation.
Mm-hmm.
The son was, like, I don't know, magnanimous or whatever it's called, where, like, you're very gracious to everyone. Like, I did him a lot of stress. Because the game kept telling me, like, this is going to cause a lot of stress. Like, it did this whole sideline about his pony. Like, I don't care about his pony. I'm not going to waste any resources from the treasury to make sure your pony stays alive.
But your pony is how you stay calm and also get stat boosts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Like, I finally caught on to that, but...
I am very proud of this character because he was age 14 when he hit illustrious prestige. You have to do a lot of war as a child to get to that point.
It's a weird game, but man, it'll eat an entire day.
Oh, yeah.
It's real fun.
And there's so many interesting. I love that there isn't. I don't know. I love that there isn't like a predictable arc to how things are going to go.
There's a lot you have to build in, a lot of contingencies. Like, I'm getting to the point where I'm understanding more of the systems, and I'm feeling like, okay, I know what's going to happen. I'm starting to understand how I can pull these levers and get the outputs that I want. It's starting to feel a little bit more like a 4X game, but a 4X game with way more things to track, way more plates to spin.
I still really feel like the game is playing me and not I'm playing the game.
That's definitely how I felt in my first 20 hours of it.
Because I feel like there's a lot of times where I should be doing something right now, but I don't know what I should be doing.
And I actually like that aspect of it. I like that you can't track everything. Stuff can still go sideways on you.
You're just straight up too poor to do something on some turns. Like you could be building out your cities and stuff like that, but you hired some mercenaries to win a conquest, and basically that was your treasury. Okay, I can't do anything now to help you out, but I guess that really tracks the fact that if you're doing military conquest, you're not going to be doing a lot of domestic projects.
Yep. Guns are better.
Well, the Vikings have a different thought on that, which is guns and butter by stealing all of the butter.
Yes, you use the guns to go get the butter. Raiding is great.
Yes.
When?
Until your opponents have, too big forts and too much army for you to reasonably raid them. And then that's when you convert to feudalism.
I also made the mistake of joining in the Crusades.
Ooh.
That's a real bad idea. It's a real bad idea.
You get a lot of prestige out of that.
You get a lot of prestige.
But it also ties up your shit for a really long time.
It does.
It depends on where you are. So that was a fun story in my last game. Is I did join a crusade because I was like, yeah, prestige, piety, that's great. And that's when my first rebellion, my first war of independence happened. No, that was the Holy Roman Empire invading, and I had to bring all of my troops back because the Holy Roman Empire is neither holy nor Roman nor an empire, and decided that they were going to invade me while I was off fighting for the Pope. So I withdrew all of my troops and came in and just destroyed them.
See, I basically was in a situation where the Pope loved me and kept feeding me money. So I'm like, shit, I really don't want the ATM to close.
I mean,
so I'll go fight.
You have the option of just giving him some money and being like, that should take care of it, right?
Yeah, but I didn't have any money either.
Oh well,
because this is right after I had to buy some mercenaries to bail myself out of a conflict. It's I had some poor management skills there.
And I have discovered that if you promise to contribute to the Crusades and then you don't actually show up, the Pope does start getting real snippy.
Oh, he'll get real mad.
At which point you either need to show up and do some fighting within the next year or give him some cash.
It's also real annoying when your forger-in-chief dies. Because then you got to bribe another forger-in-chief.
Or, I mean, you could just learn how to do diplomacy, Bill.
Psh, diplomacy.
It was really funny because
that's for hirelings.
I was playing a game with Kodra and was super heavy in intrigue, and just things started working out. Things started working out for him. I just won a war in a month. And he's like, "What happened?" I was like, "Intrigue. I just abducted their ruler right when the war started." He was like, "What?"
Oh man.
Yeah, and then I started doing this. It was great.
It's super strong.
I ended up making the wisest choice of a spouse for one of my kin that was an amazing spy master. Because it basically ended up, the spy master went off to war and got killed, and no, it was abducted. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not going to go. He was a crappy spy master, but this lady that I had married into the family she was phenomenal at spycraft. Like all those failures that I had from before of finding dirt on other empires, like all of a sudden was like perfect. Yeah, it's like, and they didn't take very long, and it was grand. So I understand the power of spycraft.
I've been getting better at the art of diplomacy, where it's like, oh, I can take more territory almost as quickly and easily with diplomacy as I can by waging war.
Although, like, I was waging war on behalf of others, and that gets real dangerous because you don't get the title.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you better make that one person happy, or they're going to take their titles and run.
Yep.
Yeah, anyway, it's a good game. It's confusing. I don't know what I'm doing.
It's half the fun.
Definitely is that.
So, another game that we talked about, or I've talked about, is Avengers, and I've reached this weird place with the game where I think I'm more or less done with it until something else comes along. I've leveled Captain America all the way up and geared Captain America. I've leveled Thor all the way up and at least partially geared Thor. I've leveled Ms. Marvel most of the way up. Like, I think she's 40-ish and 50 is the cap. And now I've just kind of reached a point where, like, I don't know why I'm leveling more alts. But it did have an interesting side effect in that, like, I have liked the character of Miss Marvel for a while, but, like, I've never actually read her actual comic. So I have been doing a deep dive on the Ms. Marvel comic, and it is delightful.
It's so very good.
It is so good. Like, I'm not very far into it because, like, I've been reading it through Marvel Unlimited, and my God, Marvel Unlimited is a great deal. But yeah, like it's one of the best comics I've read. It's amazing. It's so well written, and the character's great. And I am now I was at least a partial fan, but like no, I'm a full on fan, and it really isn't thanks to the Avengers game because like Kamala is super charming in the game and is best character. You're basically like, this is the hero's journey of Kamala, and I've said that before, but like that's the best part about the game is how good the story is. It's short, but it's really good. But now I've gone on a mission to dig in and learn more of her backstory, since it kind of gave me a crash course.
So what has led you to the point of I'm no longer playing this game?
I don't know, like it. I don't know. I don't know how to put it into words succinctly. It's just the moment-to-moment gameplay is perfectly cromulent, but it's not like super fun. And there's essentially 6 maps, and it's all just derivations of those 6 maps. And while the missions have their own objectives, it's like, imagine if Diablo only had 6 tile sets. Like it would get really, like Rifts would get really bored or really old really fast. And the problem is like those 6 tile sets, they play out the same way every time. So like objectives are going to be in the same location every time you drop in, even if the scenario itself is different. And it was fun, to bash stuff for a while, but like, I think I've capped out to as far as I could go right now until they add more stuff in. Like, I could grind out more, but, like, what would be the point in grinding myself into oblivion in the game right now?
Yeah.
Like, I'll just wait, see what happens. Because supposedly there's going to be content drops coming up soon. So I think I'm done-ish for right now, unless, like, somebody else starts playing and we want to run around. Like, so if Ammo and I wanted to group up, like I'm not opposed to playing more of it. It's just like additional hours at this point isn't giving an additional joy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of games
sense
out there.
Yeah, like I have a huge backlog of games. So I just like, okay, I think I'm going to put this to bed for right now. I still feel like, so there's a great story there. I'm hoping we get more story as content drops happen, and it's not just quote-unquote end-game content. But I do kind of feel like the game probably could have used another year of incubation before it launched, just to build up more variety. it kind of launched as a minimum viable product. And I think that's kind of been the challenge with a lot of things that have launched. Anthem, for example.
Yeah.
And the difference here, though, is like, so all those other games, like, I mean, Anthem had a good story, but like it was also similarly short. I feel like on its own merits, Avengers has a really good story. I just wish I could have seen more of that over the course of like a Spider-Man-esque game instead of as a lobby game. Because like that was the part that was compelling to me, not necessarily the repeatable Destiny-esque action.
Yeah.
But I mean, we'll see. Like, there's supposedly drops of content coming. That's ultimately the challenge with these things anyway, is like, yeah, they're going to have to hit a cadence of releasing new content on the regular. Because like what is there is kind of shallow right now. So they're going to have to hit, maybe monthly releases for a while to build up a backlog of stuff for you to do or stuff you want to do. But they haven't released any kind of a roadmap yet, so I don't even know what's on the horizon for this game. I do know it's kind of in trouble on Steam.
Why is that? Like, why is it on trouble?
So its highest concurrency period was 30,000 players, and it's been bleeding players since launch, and it was down into the teens earlier this week.
Oh,
It's not a great sign.
Well, teens of thousands, but
Still, but it's dropping that much that quickly. Yeah.
yeah. So like today, it had a 24-hour peak of 15,000 users on Steam playing Avengers, and its all-time peak was 31,000. So it's a little over a week that it's been out, and it's halved its concurrency. And I have no idea how it's doing on consoles, but I mean, I don't know what a normal curve looks like for fall off. Like, but I wouldn't think half in a week is like 1 week after launch is a good sign. But I think a lot of people have basically beat the story and have checked out now.
That seems likely.
I mean, and it kind of does itself a disservice because like the story will maybe get you to like level 12 out of 50. So like you're going to kind of have to grind your way up after that. And the grind is repeating the same 6 maps over and over and over in various combinations.
Which feels like, why?
Exactly. Like,
Yeah.
like I have a proclivity for grinding, and I have now leveled 2 characters to 50 and 1 to 40 doing that thing. But like I've basically like that was the top of me doing it. So I'm sure like people who are more evasive of grind just did the story and will come back when there's more story. Because like I don't want to counter the fact that the story is delightful. It is a really good story that is told, and I mean I think it's a good thing. It's just a real short game. I mean, story-wise, it's probably about 10 hours, and I've put in around 50 hours now.
Yeah, I still haven't finished the story, but that's not because, the game hasn't been interesting. I just haven't had time because the story has been rather enjoyable and charming so far, what I've seen of it.
Yeah, we'll have to talk offline to see where you're at in the story.
Yeah.
To kind of know how far in you are.
I'm still at 2 heroes, and I'm getting close to finding the third.
Okay, so you're still very much in the getting the band back together phase.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I would say once the band is united, that's kind of the halfway point.
Okay.
So we got a kind of late start tonight, and there's a whole bunch of stuff we talked about before we started recording that we maybe should have just started the show and started recording.
One
of the little side topics was there's something really weird going on right now with Magic the Gathering products. And in my mind, it's kind of the sportscardification of Magic the Gathering. So like I worked at a sports card shop and a comic shop during the crashes in sports cards and in comics that happened in the 90s. And the problem with like the crash of the 90s is, I think, directly attributed to the fact that like all of these sports card companies, and this was the same thing that happened in comics, kept trying to churn out more and more collectible products that were like lenticular foil covers and, you know, like super premium edition and for collectors only items. And I'm seeing that starting to happen in Magic the Gathering. So I think it was with Return to, or the last Ravnica cycle, that they started with these Mythic Edition boxes where you pay an ungodly premium for the box. You get fewer packs than you do in a normal box, but there's a special chase card series that you get along with it. And it was like, I want to say it was like Planeswalkers or something that was like full art Planeswalkers were the first ones. But they did several rounds of those with sets, and they sold phenomenally well. These were things that like sold out in a matter of minutes, and you had to order them straight from Hasbro. And then starting with Throne of Eldraine, they started releasing these collector's boosters. So instead of $4 a booster or $5 a booster, it was $15 to $20 a booster. And instead of like just standard Magic cards, you had like everything in the pack was foiled, or everything was either foiled or some kind of a rare full art variant or some kind of a chase card. And that has carried on for Eldraine and Theros and Core 21, and has now it happened with Ikoria. And then with what is it, the Double Masters, I think, was when they first started with this, is in addition to these collector's boosters, they had special VIP boosters. So instead of 15 card boosters, they were 30 card boosters, and they were $100 a pack.
Good grief.
And they were like loaded with, you know, everything was foil, or everything was like, it had like multiple mythics and all kinds of nonsense going on with these super duper rare VIP boosters. And like literally it's a pack in like a 6-inch by 6-inch square box. And like, so it's got all this packaging to like make it look like this exclusive specialty product. And now it's to the point where like those all sold out. It is almost impossible to get one of these things. So that $100 a pack is creeping up, and it's reached this point where like a case of that sells for as much as a piece of Power 9. So like you can get a low end piece of Power 9 for like $2,000-ish. Or you can get this brand new product that doesn't have anything anywhere near as rare as that for the same price.
I mean, but doesn't it kind of have something as rare as that? Like, these are supposed to be premium products that are hard to get. Like, this is the... I know the title is Sportscardification. It feels like the Yu-Gi-Oh-ification. Like...
I mean, it does feel a lot like comics in the 90s of... It's like, here are these things that are meant to be collectibles, and they're going to get more valuable. And you should buy 50 copies of The Death of Superman and put them away and keep them in mint condition, and they'll pay for your kid's college.
Exactly.
And guess how much you have to pay for a mint copy of Death of Superman these days?
Like 50 cents.
Yeah.
But
they're everywhere.
That's the thing, is like I call it the sports cardification because like this crash first happened with sports cards, and then it happened with comics, and both of those industries were set back massively. Like the difference, however, is right now this is a single company, and it is a single product that isn't being sold by any other company. So like that's probably keeping it from happening to some extent, because like there's not a bidding war of rareness going on to where like Donruss and Tops and Fleer and Upper Deck are all trying to churn out more and more premium content to feed the machine. And that's also what happened in comics. Like, you know, Image was notoriously the start of this with their, God, what was it? The mail away comics that like, if you collected specific issues, they had coupons that you could mail away for like some super rare comic.
Oh, probably. I know Wizard had the issue 1/2 of all sorts of various things that you could only get by mailing away to Wizard.
Yep.
And you
Valiant Comics also, like Valiant Comics was really good for a while, and they had a really low print run, which cranked up their prices. But then they started churning out premium product left and right.
Yeah, you had your foil covers, your die cut covers, your alternate covers, the holograms on the cover, and then when they got to the point of alternate interiors, that's when I knew that there was a serious problem, and everything fell apart not long after that.
But like all of these things have held no value. Like,
correct.
I remember Bloodshot was like some kind of special die cut foil cover, and you know, like we couldn't keep it on the shelf in the comic shop. And now, God, like I don't know, like it's maybe $1, maybe, or the crazy crossovers between universes that were like the lenticular covers that like. Depending on how you looked at it, looked a different way, to where one universe was winning if you tilted it one way, and one universe was winning if you tilted it the other way.
Basically, the only one of those that are worth anything are the ones where the thing actually tended to damage the comic, like the Eclipso comic with the giant plastic black diamond on the cover. Like, I think copies of those actually in mint might be worth something simply because there aren't any. Because it had a giant black plastic diamond on the cover, bending it.
Well, and there were also some that had like plastic covers that they shipped in, but like the printing was on the inside of the plastic to keep it from rubbing off. But that meant it ended up bleeding onto the comic.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, so we're just in this weird phase where like there's this race to create rarer and rarer products, and I don't think it's sustainable in the long run.
I mean, my guess is Wizards sees like the resellers making all this money on, you know, rare cards, and are like, we want some of that. If we guarantee there are rare cards, we can charge more for them. But I don't know.
Yeah, like, so with the new Zendikar set, they're bringing back fetch lands with an asterisk behind that statement. They will only be available through either the collector's boxes, which are the boxes that are like $300 a box, or if you buy, you know, the $80 to $100 normal booster boxes, you will get a single chase card as a box topper. But it's not just the 10 fetch lands that people have been clamoring to get reprinted. It's a whole set of expeditions. So, like, you just have to be lucky that you get a fetch. You could get horrible box toppers that won't be of any value either in play or in monetary value.
So it sounds like they've decided that Mr. Suitcase is their actual target audience, and they need to pull as much money out of him as possible.
They've gone whale hunting.
Yeah, because that's really what this sounds like. Like in modern terms, it sounds like free-to-play games, like targeting whales, and specifically, it sounds like targeting whales in a way where they actually will have a game advantage, which is concerning.
Well, except, what do you mean having game advantage?
If fetch lands are only available if you spend a hell of a lot of money for them, then that is a game advantage to people who have money to burn. That is Mr. Suitcase.
Yeah.
I mean, and fetch lands have reached a point where basically if you're going to play modern, you need full play sets of fetch lands. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. This is a weird time to watch Magic. But like on the other hand, they're doing some really cool things too. So like one of their best sets traditionally is their Commander releases. And with Zendikar Rising, they're only doing 2 Commander decks, but they're also basically selling the Commander decks at the prices they used to sell the theme decks for. So like for $30, you can pick up both of the Commander decks. So I don't know, like, and it seems like they haven't skimped on the quality of the Commander decks. They're just selling the Commander decks much cheaper. And that's not to say you'll be able to find them in an aftermarket for that price, but I mean, that's what their release prices are, is I think like 15 a deck or something like that.
I think that's actually sort of I think that they're in a really, really weird place, because what was considered the normal way of playing Magic, that was so much considered the normal way of playing Magic that they called it standard, is just not.
Yeah.
Like that is a smaller and smaller portion of the people who are playing Magic, whereas weird stuff like Commander is taking off.
Well, in paper Magic.
Well, but the only reason it's not taking off in digital Magic is because nobody can play it in digital Magic
through a client that's not horrible.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, for all intents and purposes, Magic Arena murdered every other Magic client just because it's such a better polished experience. And like, yes, I'm sure there are still people playing on the previous systems, but like that's a fall off. Like those places are not going to have an influx of new players and are slowly going to become more and more niche, if not very quickly become more and more niche. But especially when you start talking about like the very collectorsy, sets, that's all paper Magic. And that's where something like Commander is such a huge draw. And Commander is basically Mr. Suitcase the game.
I mean, maybe it's just that. Maybe they've decided, and it does sound like maybe this is in fact the truth, that paper Magic is for people with lots of money and everybody else plays digital Magic.
Yeah.
Well, and Zendikar Rising is also changing, or has created basically another divergence. So, like, traditionally, boosters are designed to be draftable. Yet this time they have draft boosters, but they also have something called a set booster, which is a product designed to be cracked. It is not designed to be draftable. It contains cards that aren't validly draftable in the set. Like, so there's a chance of getting cards from Magic's history, whatever that means. We don't know what that means yet.
It's for the streamers.
I mean, it's basically for people to crack and try and get something cool in it, not to draft. So I mean, I don't know.
It sounds like a different type of collector booster.
Yeah, it's like a lower end collector booster. It's not as expensive.
It's not as like, we're not going to do as many wild art things with these cards.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's kind of interesting because it feels like they are trying to target Magic collectors and people who care about what a card looks like with these, and less focused on the draft environment, which I think is a good thing.
I don't know. I mean, my concern is that historically, it has always seemed like when a company starts focusing more on collectability than the original purpose of the thing in question, that's when everything goes to hell. Because that's what happened with sports cards. That's what happened with comics.
I would say that I feel like Magic has been ignoring collectors, and there has been a pretty loud clamoring for people who want more collectability in Magic cards.
I don't know that I agree with that. I think that Magic has been a super hardcore collector's game for decades, and and they're leaning more flagrantly into it now, but it's always been a big collector's game. Because otherwise people wouldn't get mad when if they released a new reprinting of Dual Lands, for example, like their collectors would just destroy them. Like they'd be enraged. But like it would be really, really good for the player base if they just like stopped messing around and printed plenty of powerful basic lands that were the basic lands that you basically need to be using. Like just print those. They can do it. But they don't do it because then all of the old ones that are hard to get and collector's items are harder to acquire.
Yeah, I mean, the collector's market has affected the quality of the Magic game from the very beginning.
Yeah,
like that's by the time Magic hit it big, they were already through a couple of versions. There were already cards that had been retired. Like balance was already weird, and it seems like it's only slowly gotten worse.
Well, I mean, and in the community, there's basically a constant raging battle between two halves. There is the MTG finance crew, and then there is the MTG player crew. And I feel like the channels that represent these the most are Tolarian Community College with the professor, and he released a video last week basically saying that the best thing Magic could do was do away with a reserve list and just break out those cards and make them open season to print. And he presented fairly cogent points that stuff has been removed from the reserve list before, and it did not do anything to negatively impact the price of those cards. Like the value of the originals maintained their position, if not like increased their position, because people are actually playing with them and they're actually interested in going and tracking down those cards so they can bling out their decks. And then on the other side is Rudy from Alpha Investments, who's very much MTG is a financial vehicle. And it's interesting to like watch both because they're very dialed into a specific portion of the community. Mm-hmm. And those communities are more or less diametrically opposed.
Yep. And the problem that you run into when you have that situation is the company is going to tend to cater to the one of those communities that makes up the larger part of their income, which is probably collectors. And it's real easy to go too far and just blow everything up. I mean, they've made it this far and they haven't done it yet, but it sounds like it's an ongoing struggle, and I've seen it enough times with other products.
Yeah, I just have concerns, and like there's another product that's come out recently that folks are flocking to as the new Magic the Gathering called Flesh and Blood, but it seems to largely be a collectible thing because they have really low print runs and people are snapping up the quote-unquote alpha editions of the product. And I feel like that's probably going to crash too because I don't know if people are actually playing it. Kind of like I don't know if anybody actually really played the WoW TCG or if they were just chasing mounts.
Yeah, because that's the big thing. If nobody's actually if nobody's actually playing paper Magic anymore, like if people stop playing it, then what happens to the collector's market for those cards? I mean, okay, collectors keep selling the cards to each other, but do new collectors come into? You don't get a lot of new collectors coming in if they're not interested in the game to begin with, and you don't have non-collectors desiring those cards, willing to pay the prices for them. So what happens to the market? I mean, that's basically what happened with comics, is the collectors were buying the comics and selling them back and forth to each other, and people just stopped reading them and stopped caring, and then it all fell apart.
Yeah. Like, if you spend so much time basically strip mining the past, like, are you building a future for you to stand on?
Mm-hmm. You need new players coming in, and digital players are great for the game, but they're not going to do anything. They're going to do very little for the physical game. They are playing the digital game.
Well, I mean, to some extent, it's probably okay for Wizards if they're like, I mean, we slowly phase out paper magic, and that's where we're at.
Yeah, I mean, if the collector's market did go away, Wizards at this point could survive on digital, and then they've got D&D and everything too now. So
yeah, and honestly, with D&D, they have a harder time monetizing that because so much of the stuff that is involved in running a campaign is things that like they don't own the rights to. Like, there's a massive market in gaming products that are designed like dice or dice bags or that sort of stuff, and they don't have a chokehold on any of that. That's effectively public domain.
Mm-hmm.
So like it will be harder for them to come up with like limited products that they can, mine from D&D. But Magic they can absolutely exploit because it's always been rarity based.
Yeah, because they own the entire game. You don't have people making their own cards that are compatible with Magic. It's not really a thing. And
the thing is like I would be fine largely with Magic going mostly digital if they actually were willing to support all of the formats, because like Commander in Arena would be great. That would be super fun.
Mm-hmm.
But like I think right now probably the best option you have for playing Commander with friends is maybe Tabletop Simulator, because I know there's people that do that where they basically like make decks and play in Tabletop Simulator.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the closest that pen and paper got to this was probably D20.
Yeah.
Because like there was so much product coming out every month to the game store.
Oh yeah, no, it was a glut. Like, and you'll notice how many of those companies that were making D20 product are still around. Not many.
And it was really fun for a while because like, oh, hey, here's a thing that I like, and it's now in a compatible system with this other thing that I like. And then just like the floodgates opened. Okay, I think this is a Thalen topic. Tell me about shipbreaking, Thalen.
Shipbreaking, yes. Okay, so you posted a couple of days ago about how, Greedfall was on sale and everybody should buy Greedfall. And so I went to check it out. And while I was there, I decided to look at other things that publisher had because it was a publisher sale. And one of the games published by Focus is a game called Hardspace Shipbreaker, which is currently in early access, but it's a number of months in. And this is a really great puzzle game about being a blue-collar salvage worker, taking spaceships apart in a dystopian future, and feeding the parts into, reprocessors and the like to salvage them and earn money to pay off your absurd debt. Like it's basically a puzzle game, because you've got these spaceships that they have, reactors and engines and electrical systems and coolant systems and all the like that can be, real dangerous if you accidentally cut into the wrong wire before you've, depowered something, or, puncture a fuel line, or if you accidentally cut into a pressurized cabin from vacuum and all the air comes rushing out and explodes the wall into shards that, slice through your spacesuit. And also, even worse, damages the stuff that's inside the cabin. Because, if you die, they'll just clone you. You've given them the rights to clone you as much as they want and mess with your gray matter. And also, you promised when you signed up for the job to vote for a certain person for Senate. Because dystopian.
Of course you did.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of checkboxes you got to check. I've never been a part of a labor union is one of them. It's like they're they know the feel they're going for here. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. There's only 3 basic ship types at the moment, but like parts of the design will be slightly different from ship to ship, and which compartments happen to be pressurized this time and things like that, and like the actual cargo that's being carried. But it's just kind of an almost once you've learned the basics of a ship type, it's almost like a Zen process of just going through. It's this type of ship. Okay, I need to get inside so I can equalize as much pressure as possible. I need to turn off the fuel to the engines. Now I can go outside, yank the engines, and salvage them. And that gives me access into the engine compartment. And from there, I can start hitting the cut points to cut off the outer hull of the ship, peel that off, and send it into the furnace, into the processor. And, it's a lot of fun. And they're actively developing it. They promise new ship types in the future, and apparently what they've got right now is just Act 1. There's going to be Acts 2 and 3 as well. So maybe an actual story mode. I don't know. But yeah, it's neat. I recommend it.
Yeah, like the trailer reminded me a lot of in Jedi Fallen Order, where you're basically running around the shipbreaking yard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's very much like you are a worker. You are not a soldier. You're not going to be using your equipment for combat. You have basically a laser cutter, and then you have a fancier laser cutter that will cut like a line. And then you have a grapple, and the grapple is great. It lets you move things around, and it lets you shoot tethers that can drag things to different places. Tethers are your friends.
Tethers are your friends.
So, is there the likelihood of encountering dangerous organisms on these ships, or is it just environmental dangers?
It's just environmental dangers so far. I don't know what they might have planned for Acts 2 and 3, though. So, it's entirely possible that could be a thing. So I don't know, because you're certainly getting ships that are still pressurized. So in theory, if something was alive on there, it could, maybe still be alive. So you might run into the situation of needing to blow out a particular compartment to deal with something, or lead it into some sort of environmental danger.
Yeah, I mostly asked because I ended up. So some time ago I signed up for the Humble Monthly thing, and each month you get a bunch of games to pick from. And one of them, it was either this month or last month, was a game called Genesis Alpha 1, which is kind of a similar game where you're basically you build a ship that then goes out and collects resources in the universe. And while you're collecting resources, you can, you have to basically build all the parts of your ship. So
right.
You have to build a processing plant. You have to build. So as you're collecting resources, sometimes you accidentally beam up hostile life. So every so often, oh, hey, while I'm mining graphite, I accidentally sucked up some nasty alien creature that's now trying to kill me on the ship. So you're running around with pretty rudimentary weapons, trying to stop it before you can go back and continue processing. It's really lo-fi and kind of high concept, but it was entertaining. And it reminded me of this game you're talking about. But I've not played Shipbreaker yet.
One thing I'm not sure about with something like that is so you have a time limit on your shifts. Shifts are 15 minutes at a time. So you can only work for 15 minutes a day, in game days. But other than that, it's a fairly slow-paced, steady process. Honestly, trying to rush things is a good way to get yourself killed. So mostly it's just this really patient process of cutting things open and pulling out the goodies inside. Apart from salvaging a reactor, you really need to plan ahead. Because once you yank that thing out, it starts to melt down, and you're on a time limit. And if that thing blows, most of the ship's gone. Good job. So I don't know. Like it might feel bad to have to spend like half of a 15-minute shift desperately trying to deal with some alien thing before I can actually get down to the actual work.
So in this dystopian world, are your 15-minute shifts so that you don't work a certain amount and don't have to be paid benefits?
I think it's mostly because you pay a daily rental fee on your gear.
Lovely.
You can eventually, like, once you've got enough certificates, you can purchase your own helmet and oxygen tanks and thrusters and the like. And so at least then you don't have to pay rental fees for those. You still got to buy oxygen and fuel and such. But honestly, like, I think there's been 2 days my entire career that I did not make back the rental fee and then some. And those were days that I was very focused on prepping for pulling out the really valuable stuff the following day. Like, so I only made 400,000 credits this day, and my rental fees were a little over 500. But the following day, I pulled in 4 million. So,
okay,
works out.
So we have another topic that's kind of been floating around on our list for a while, and I think, Tam, this was inspired by Tsushima.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
So QTEs.
We all hate them.
Boy, do we hate them. Like, I mean, we hate them so much it's a meme. They're born of trying to blend gameplay with cutscenes because people said they hated cutscenes, but then you want like cool action, but like there's some stuff that you just can't do as an action sequence. So you have this thing that's like an action, but QTEs, but like that's not fun either. And so for like 15 years more, QTEs have been like the meme of,
honestly, since Shenmue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I think the original God of War may have been where it really took off as a meme.
But like Shenmue was 99, and then God of War was after that.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, God of War was really the place that like it felt egregious first. Like, and now God of War QTEs seem really tame. But yeah, like the fact like I can't finish this fight off unless I nail a sequence of buttons at the very end that's going to be weirdly spaced out to where like I have to mash the button when I see the symbol pop up on the screen.
Mm-hmm. It's
like that I think was what really made it feel awful to me. Is like, had the QuickTime event been basically the equivalent of a finishing move in Mortal Kombat, to where if you nailed it, something really cool happened, but if you didn't, you could still finish the fight regardless.
Yeah.
Like, that would have felt fine, but it was the fact that, like, you couldn't finish the fight. Like, it would reset, and you'd basically have to do the last phase over because you failed to do DDR in the correct sequence.
Because if it's you've won no matter what, now push the appropriate buttons for extra awesome. Like, that's fine. Sure. But
it wasn't really ever that. Or mostly it wasn't.
Yeah.
There's like a little bit of that in Jedi Fallen Order, but even that was like, it didn't feel good. So anyway, Ghost of Tsushima, which it's got QTEs. It's got a button you can press to kick off a QTE sequence. But it's actually well done and it's really fun. You can do a challenge. You can like challenge people in an area. Like if you roll up instead of just running up and starting to sword people, you can like shout at them and challenge their honor and have them come out. And it's interesting because mechanically it's a balance against stealth. Because what stealth lets you do is remove a few problematic targets so that you're not fighting everybody in the fort or whatever at once.
Mm.
And to balance out that strength, if you're like a more kick down the door type, what they give you is you can issue a challenge. And the biggest, toughest, or one of the biggest, toughest dudes in like hearing radius will come out, and you'll have like a classic, samurai movies type showdown where you stand there like ultra still, and you have to and you hold the triangle button and let it go when you want to strike. And at first it's like you let it go when the other person starts to swing at you, and you like beat them to the punch and cut through them, and it's like one fewer person you've got to fight. But it's this whole separate system that you can level up and do other stuff. And like as you level it up, you can do 2 people. It's like you can hit 2 people or 3 people in this QTE sequence where it's like hold triangle and then let it go when the first person commits to an attack. And then when the second person is running close, press it again. And when the third person is coming close, press it again. And like you've just removed 3 powerful enemies from the fight you're about to have, which is a huge advantage.
Well, and like there's also the advantage that it kind of makes the other encounters wary of you after having seen their quote unquote leader dispatched.
Yeah. There's all kinds of, you can make it. I mean, you can do a thing where you've got a chance of making your other enemies run away in fear after this challenge. So it's this cool, neat little like thematic thing, but it's also really, I mean, much like the entire rest of the game, it's just gorgeous. Like the setup and the cinematography for it is gorgeous, but it's also really satisfying. And I'd done it a few times, was like, wow, I'm opting into a QTE sequence. Like, what is happening? Like, I'm opting into a QTE sequence over playing a stealth game. Because if you issue a challenge, you are not then going to go hide and sneak around after.
No,
right?
No, you have kicked down the door.
It is literally you kicking down the door. Like, you roll up on your horse and start shouting like, "Hey, cowards, come out and fight me!" And they do. And like, if you sneak into a place and start stabbing people, you can't then go challenge them. You can't like leave and come back and challenge them. Yeah,
like you get one chance.
Yeah,
like you either do this thing or you don't do this thing.
And it as it turns out, it's really, really neat. And it also sort of grows like as you play more and more of the game. It starts to do more interesting stuff because it's a really great way to get used to the rest of the combat. Like it's really cleverly designed because they just make a normal attack at you, but it means that you get a really good, clear-cut look at what those attack animations look like, so that when you see them in an actual fight, you're more ready for them, which is super clever. And then also you have different enemy types, so you start to see how the different enemy types attack and like where their vulnerable moment is. Because it turns out that the moment you let go and swipe with the QTE is also the right time to parry if you see that same attack animation, or at least is so close that it feels like it is.
Or if you're just using a more aggressive style, if you're striking them at that time, it's doing the same thing.
Yeah. Like
you're going to overpower them and basically just mow over top of them.
Yeah. And so it turns into this really useful thing for like getting used to watching enemy attack animations, because you really have to do a lot of that in the combat, but it like encapsulates it in this nice little place where you could just watch and see it broken down for you over more and more enemy types. And then enemies will start like faking you out and trying to distract you. And like, as they get more and more difficult, like keeping your calm and not like instantly reacting becomes more of that mini game. But it struck me because it's the first time I've seen QTEs just like so well designed, and like I can't imagine that game without that, and I can't believe I'm saying that about a QuickTime event.
Well, and I'm not really sure how they could have done it to basically balance the tactical advantage of stealth. Because like you said, it's really on equal footing. Like I've done both, and honestly, like, for me, it feels more natural just to go and challenge.
Yeah.
Like, it is a much faster resolution, but it's not any harder.
And it's one of those things where it's like I go back and forth myself, where depending on what it is I need to do is what decides where I'm going to go as far as where I'm going to go as far as like, am I going to stealth in or am I going to just kick down the door? Because it's like, if I'm going in and I need to rescue people, I'm going to do it stealth wise because I don't want those people to get hurt. But if I'm just like clearing out a camp, like, no, I'm kicking that door down.
Well, and for me, like, a huge decision is how many archers they have.
Yeah.
Because archers are the problem. If you're doing the challenge duel style, archers are your only real big problem. Because, like, everybody else is going to be dazed enough from the initial attack that you're going to have, like, pretty even spacing, and you can kind of just flow through the other encounters. But archers are always the wild card.
Yeah. Oh, and that's the other thing, is that you've got your parry bar / special ability / healing bar, and doing the challenge fills that up.
And especially once you, like, learn special strikes, those are so great because, like, I always use that heavenly strike or whatever, that first one you get.
The crazy unblockable thing?
Yeah, the crazy unblockable one. I always use that to power through the mob types in the camp that I just don't like fighting.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just going to straight remove them because this one attack allows me to basically erase an encounter. But between that and the initial advantage of taking out a tough encounter, like, you've whittled it down to where you're mostly just fighting fodder at that point, and it's not that big of a deal. Like, I hate fighting spear people. They're the most annoying for me to deal with. So a lot of times I'll heavenly strike through them and move on to the easier to fight stuff. Like the dudes with the shields, the dude with the two-handers, I never have any issue with them. But the spears, like, they inevitably always get a hit off on me.
Yeah, it's such a neat, and I'm trying to think of any other game where I've had a QTE sequence and been like, yes, this was the objectively correct choice for how this game should be played. And like the only thing I can think of is like Heavy Rain.
I don't know if I've ever played a game where the QTE was optional. That wasn't some random side mini game. You know what I mean? Like, it's part of the flow of the natural game, but it's entirely optional whether or not I want to engage in it.
Yeah, and I think that helps a lot.
I do enjoy the QuickTime events in Yakuza, but they don't have a whole lot of game effect, and I think that's part of why. Because it's very much the hit the button for extra coolness, but you're okay even if you miss it.
Yeah, hit the button for extra coolness, but you don't need to worry about it too much.
Yeah, but as far as ones that have an actual, like, legit game effect, like, I'm having a hard time thinking of one.
Well, and like, there's a lot of games that basically have the equivalent of whack-a-mole in a side event that it's just like, this is optional content, and that's fine. Like, sure, if I'm going to play some machine in an arcade in the game, I expect it's probably going to be a whack-a-mole QTE event. And I go into that knowing that. But I'm not really like, that's not what I'm saying. Like, this is a key game part, but it's up to me whether or not I want to engage in it. And had God of War been that way, to where me doing the QTE was basically me just adding a flourish.
Yeah.
That would have felt great. Like, sure. Like, I am cognizant enough of this fight that I know in a few minutes I'm going to get a sequence of buttons. So I'm playing ahead enough of the curve to know, okay, yeah, I'm ready for it. Let's do this thing. Not, oh man, that was a struggle to get to the fight, and now I'm going to have to do this finishing move in order to, like, realize the work that I just did during the fight.
I haven't played that game in a couple of weeks, and now I want to go back and jump back into it.
Yeah, which kind of leads into the next topic. I've not played Tsushima in several weeks, and it's a challenge to go back to a game that you've set down for a while and have any clue what's going on.
There are many games that I've played the first however many hours multiple times and never beaten the game for that very reason.
Mm-hmm.
It's a problem.
And specifically, this topic is like, I think, towards MMOs.
Honestly, it's a lot of things. Like, because I put it on there. I put it on there because there have been 2 games that I haven't played in quite a while that I've been like meaning to go back to, but I haven't because I've been just like, the cognitive overload of jumping back into this is just too much. And like part of it is FF14, where it's like, okay, I've got to go and like remember all of my button combinations and where I was and what's happening in the story and just like reload all of that into my brain and be like, okay, can I functionally black mage anymore? And the other one was Infinity, which I haven't played in a little over a year, and is like, it's a super complicated game, and there's been a bunch of new stuff that's come out, and it's just like, okay, do I even remember how this game works?
Well, I know like there's a game that I regularly get like a desire to go play, but the main reason why I don't is because like, I don't know. So EverQuest 2 is a game that I really enjoy, and it has a lot of stuff going on, and occasionally I will get the desire, I want to go play this for a while. But like, I will say the number one reason why that I struggle at going back is because my bags are nonsense, and that game has such large bags that just the act of sorting through the bags and trying to remember what was useful and what isn't useful is just too much. And like, I maybe log in for a second, then log right back out.
I actually developed a habit in Guild Wars of the last thing I do before I log out of any character is do a quick bag sort and make sure that my bags are in order. Because at any given time, it might be like, oh, this is the last time I log into this character for months. Or this last time I played the game for months. So if I come back and I have to like sort through my inventory, there's a decent chance that I'm just going to log out and be like, no, I can't handle this.
Yeah, and Guild Wars 2 is definitely that style of game, just like EQ2 is, where there's a bunch of stuff that you pick up of questionable usefulness. And at least in Guild Wars' case, you have like some inventory maintenance buttons that are handy, like write down all these things, or, deposit all the materials, or, sell all the junk. But like, I want to say in EQ2, every one of my 8 bags was 144 slots, and you just pick up so much nonsense along the way that like they're always clogged. The biggest thing that I'm struggling with is I do not know why I bounced out of Jedi Fallen Order, but it happened and I set it down, and now I can't remember what the hell was going on when I came back to it.
Yeah, that's where I tend to have the problem, is with single-player games, like really narrative-heavy single-player games. Because I'll get like, 20 hours in, and for whatever reason get distracted, and then I try to come back to it. Like, I don't remember what was happening at all. This doesn't make sense.
So, like, one of the cool things that Avengers had was at any point you can reset to the last objective, and it basically resets the state of the game to whatever objective you last completed. And I almost wish there was an equivalent to that for like a single player or a long form game, to where you can say, okay, reset me back to the start of the last chapter. Because a lot of times, if you start at a milestone in the game and begin a new section, then that has enough of its own consistency to carry you through it. So like, what happened to me in Jedi Fallen Order is like, I stopped halfway through Kashyyyk, and I don't know what I did in Kashyyyk, and I don't know what I haven't done in Kashyyyk, and I don't know where the path I'm supposed to go is.
Yeah.
I just stopped at a checkpoint in the middle of this planet.
Yep.
And if I could reset back to the beginning of that planet, yes, I would lose time. But then there's the problem of like, I don't know what save was at the beginning of that to even jump back in saves.
Yeah. I run into that problem with with a lot of Souls-like games, and that one's no different. Where I'm like, I don't have this map loaded into my head anymore, and navigating without knowing the map is a real quick way to just like get rocked over and over again.
Well, same problem is true with like Metroidvanias. Because if you return to one of those after being gone for a really long time, I don't remember where I am in the sequence of events.
Like most of the map is unlocked, and I am here in this castle, and I don't know what I did last.
Yeah, I don't know what my objective was.
Where was I even going? And I'm trying to think of games that what gets me is that I've seen games that are really, really good at giving you like a quick recap. One of my favorites, and I can't remember which game this was, but I remember seeing it and thought it was super clever. If you come back to it after not playing for like a couple of weeks or whatever, I forget how much time it was, it drops the difficulty on you based on how long you were away, and then ramps it back up to what your previous setting was as you play it.
I am so grateful for every game that is going to be like, hey, UEC, you've been away. Here's what's going on in this game.
Yeah.
I know Dragon Quest X, like one of the things that I really appreciated was anytime you loaded a save, it gave you the story thus far. And even that, like,
it helps so much.
It's like, okay, this is what happened recently. This is what I am trying to do. Thank you.
That's the best thing about watching a Netflix original series is when a new season comes out, they give you a really good rundown of what happened last season. And that's what I need for a video game. I need to like load back in and make it an option that like hit Y and get a recap of like the last 5 hours of the game. And tell me like I'm 5 years old what I'm supposed to be doing now.
Or even just remind me. Just, hey, what was I doing last?
Like, I have a huge number of games that I'm probably 75% through, but like I don't feel confident returning to because I have no clue what I was doing.
Yeah.
Like that part of my memory is just gone. And like some of that is my memory and the way that it works, because like we can be sitting and having a conversation and you can be mentioning something that we both know I know something about, and I can legitimately and honestly tell you I remember nothing about this thing, and then you will say something and it triggers near total recall about the event. But like prior to that moment of realization, like I don't remember anything about this. Like it's back in my bad filing system. But then the one thing will happen, and like if I could figure out a way to have games prompt me that thing that makes me remember, it would be great.
Didn't Tyranny do that? Didn't Tyranny, like when you loaded back in, give you a quick recap?
I think it did something like that.
And like this is one of those things where what was I thinking? This is the thing where like I feel like having this is one of those things where the game's like remembering how long it's been since you've played last, and like that sort of data collection is actually really useful in this context, because it's like, oh, okay, it remembers what you were doing last.
And it kind of makes me wonder, like, I know Sony is working on basically a digital assistant that's built into the PS5, and I wonder if it will be able to do this thing. Like, ask it to basically remind you what you were doing last in such and such game. Because it's supposedly going to be like the equivalent of a Siri or a Bixby. And, like, I can totally see nefarious uses for this, but, like, if it could remind me where I left my keys, I would be way more into that. But, like, in the case of Jedi Fallen Order, I've been gone so long, I'm contemplating just restarting the game and playing with keyboard and mouse this time.
Yeah.
Because, like, I played around with keyboard and mouse, and it was fine. Like, moment-to-moment gameplay was fine. It's just, I feel like I probably need to start back at the skill level progression curve. and learn how to do all the Jedi powers with a keyboard and mouse instead of like trying to map my muscle memory from the controller over to the keyboard and mouse.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think like we had a weird start tonight, and I'm not exactly sure when we should cut off, but I think we probably have one more topic. And games as a subscription and the hit-driven economy. Tam, like I have thoughts in this direction, but like what was the staging when you wrote this topic?
So I honestly don't remember.
Okay.
It's been a little while. I don't remember, but I think I was looking at Game Pass and how heavily the Xbox is leaning into Game Pass.
Yeah, because that's kind of where I would go with this too, because we're setting up a console generation which is not just like the battle of two consoles, but the battle of two business models.
Yeah.
Because Xbox is leaning super hard into the value-driven choice and also giving you like a bunch of different ways to engage with the product. So like if you have a PC, bam, Game Pass works for PC. If you've got a mobile phone, bam, get a Bluetooth controller and you can play with xCloud. Do you have a traditional console? Bam, here's a subscription fee that's basically going to give you all the games you want to play. And like on day one with the rest of your friends, not, 8 months later.
Yeah.
And Sony is really leaning hard into the model of, things haven't changed. Like, we're just going to play along these lines. And I still see, I think they still very much view everything as deeply siloed, and those silos shouldn't cross. Because, the difference between Game Pass and xCloud and PlayStation Network and PlayStation Now is significant.
Yeah.
I would buy into PlayStation Now if it just let me play games I owned. Like if I could play games I own on my PC when I'm at a laptop instead of at a console, I would absolutely have PlayStation Now. But instead, it is a select number of games that it is streaming. Whereas xCloud is, did you buy something? Sweet. You can now stream it through xCloud. So you have the full access to your library of games, not just these 300 titles that are available on PlayStation Now. And it's a subtle difference, but it's a difference that matters to me because there's a time difference. There's a lot of great stuff on PlayStation Now, but it's a lot of old stuff on PlayStation Now. Whereas through the entire shared Xbox ecosystem, you can play brand new stuff on any of these platforms. And they're also just hitting it out of the park with their console pricing. And I don't know for certain how that's going to shake out, but the fact that you have a $500 premium console and a $300 budget console that are all using the same basic underlying technology, but one is targeting a 1440p gaming experience and one is targeting a 4K gaming experience. And supposedly, if you are willing to stay within those parameters, they are equal experiences. And that's really compelling going forward because if you can't plunk down $500 on a console, but you can, $300, or through their payment plan nonsense that they're doing, it gets the games into the hands of the players, and they're obviously, my theory is they're obviously selling things at a loss and hoping to make it up in the services.
Well, yeah, and the thing that I wonder about with the services is, okay, so I get that you can get people to buy into Game Pass. Absolutely. You're saying for you can Game Pass is what? What is the cost? What is it cost to
Game Pass Ultimate is $15 a month.
So $15 a month is okay, it's a good deal.
It's an MMO subscription.
it's an MMO subscription, or to put it a different way, if you bought 3 games at full price a year or Game Pass.
Right.
And like that's a stupidly good deal if you want the games on Game Pass. But what I wonder about is, how does that work for the game devs?
And that's what I don't understand yet. Like, I don't know what this is going to do to game budgets. Like, me personally, I use Game Pass as a test drive. So a lot of time, like Game Pass on PC is a much limited supply of games as compared to on the console. But still, for the most part, like everything new that's come out recently, I've been able to play it on Game Pass first. And that allows me to make a decision of, did I enjoy this? Do I want to buy it elsewhere? Now, I could just keep playing the Game Pass copy, but like, I personally want to go buy the game, usually on the platform that I enjoy playing on more. But like, that's a me thing. That's probably not an average player thing. Yeah.
And if your style of playing a game is to dive in and take, like, you know, sometimes the way I play games, where it's like, I'm going to jump in, I'm going to play this game to completion and then move on to the next game, then it's great. Like,
well, and
I would save a ton of money doing that.
Who this is really going to hurt is, horrible game store.
What?
I'm drawing a blank on the name of it because it's been so long as I've been there. GameStop. Because so much of GameStop's economy was built on those early players that buy the game, then turn around and sell it back to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, and GameStop was collapsing anyway. Let's be fair.
But this is, like, realistically, those people you just talked about are the people that were probably paying less for the game in the long run and then reselling it back.
Yeah.
So, like, their model isn't that different, but you basically don't have a retailer selling copies of games a second time.
Yeah, I mean, it's super convenient. Well, and the thing that I don't know about, that I don't know the answer to is this good for developers? And if so, which ones?
It is going to be good for the developers that are heavily subsidized by in-game purchases. And the reason why I say that is, like, you don't have any kind of DLC. You just get the base game. Like, when it's on Game Pass, you get, like, the vanilla copy of the game. So if there's any additional bells and whistles that may not be required, but players are going to want to play, like, they're going to have to shell out for that on top of their quote-unquote free game. So if there's a map pack or a weapon skin pack or something like that, like, that's all on top of, because you're getting the baseline game. So, like, I probably never would have played any of Sea of Thieves had I not gotten a free client just through Game Pass.
Yeah.
Like, the fact that it's there and I'm getting reminded constantly that, oh, hey, this arrived, or hey, this is leaving. And that's the other piece of this, is games are cycling in and out of this ecosystem. And if you want to keep it permanently, you need to then buy it.
So it's like
Netflix
Thunderdome for your purchases.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's basically the Netflix model where stuff is entering and leaving constantly. And it is very clear to tell you what is leaving. Which probably triggers that, I better go ahead and purchase this because I've enjoyed it and I don't want to lose access to it.
Yeah.
But if you're a content locust,
you've already beaten the game and you've
already beaten the game and you've moved on. Yeah. So, like, for that kind of player, it's perfect. But for the person that likes to revisit things, I mean, there's going to be a time when that thing isn't going to be available on the pass.
Yeah. Well, and I would bet, I don't know for sure, but I would bet that there's way less, there are way more people who, you know, pick up the game, tear through it in a weekend, or like while it's on Game Pass and then move on to the next thing, then there are, continually slowly return to it types.
Probably. But, like, I don't know if we're going to know the ramifications of this until, like, 2 years from now.
Yeah. No, you're totally right. I have no idea what is that going to look like? What is it?
Well, and I don't know what the deals that are being cut behind the scenes look like. Like, is that a significant way of subsidizing? Because it's more than just Xbox's games now. Like, it started off as mostly, it's a lot of first titles for Microsoft first titles, but like, I don't know what deals they are cutting behind the scenes to get access to these.
Yeah.
But I will say that basically, like, I don't know, I feel like Stadia and PlayStation Now are both dead in the water once xCloud really lands.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just a better offering. Because you have that Netflix model, you can purchase things and play it as well. If it falls outside of that Netflix model, you can play it on a tablet. Now, there's been some ruling on the Apple App Store for Microsoft where they're going to have to basically package every single game as though it were an independent game. So I don't know how that's going to work out, but, like, they've come to terms with Apple. And the xCloud app will basically just be like a portal to show you what's available, but then you'll have to go download the individual games on their own somehow. So, like, the Apple experience will be vastly different than the Android experience.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder, I'm sort of curious, like, is that going to change the way that people make games?
Well, and, like, we're also going through a weird period of time where so much of the sales have shifted to digital, and it is extremely hard to judge how well a title is doing digitally. So, like, earlier when I was talking about Avengers, I was using concurrency as a way to gauge the health of a game. But, like, that's fine for a games as a service game, but, like, for a beat it and you're done single player experience, like, I don't know if that means anything. Because, like, they're expecting people to burn it through it really quickly.
Yeah.
And, like, Steam has shut off the ability to check sales through their API. And, like, right now, most of the quote-unquote sales charts are all based on physical sales. Like, there's not a lot of good information about digital sales unless the company releases it.
Right. And I wonder if I suspect that leads to the kinds of things like the Avengers, where it's like, this was a single player game that we added on this weird multiplayer experience and this thing that's supposed to be a long play, like, lifestyle game, the way, like, Fortnite is, where you're supposed to buy stuff on their store and so on. But, like, why? Because, like, Anthem had the same problem.
Yeah, it had a great single player campaign, but, like...
And then you could keep playing, but it wasn't clear why you would.
Yep. Especially when a game launches with no clearly defined end game. And that's what happened. Like Avengers doesn't really have an end game, nor have they sold players on what that end game is going to look like. So, okay, like, I don't have a reason to keep playing. Like, World of Warcraft. Shadowlands is coming out in late October. And players know from the start that, like, there is going to be a release cadence that roughly 3 weeks after the launch of the game, the raid will open. So those first 3 weeks, if you are the kind of player that is so designed in that manner, it's all going to be about preparing for the raid. And you're going to have fairly predictable release cadences anymore. Because, like that is one thing that Blizzard has gotten right, is they're pretty good at reliably releasing content on a cycle.
I mean, well, they've learned the hard way that if they go too long, then
players
will leave
abandon
their game.
ship.
Yeah, and
But these games that launch without a clearly defined end game, they just don't understand how that process works. Like,
they don't get a year and a half worth of time to figure it out, like WoW did.
No, and to be honest, I feel like Square is screwing up by the way that they release their games. Like for Final Fantasy XIV. Like like we, for the most part, wander away in that period of time that is the long wait for the first patch. And I get it's because they grind so hard to hit the deadline that they need a vacation afterwards. I understand that. But maybe adapt it to where you're not grinding so hard, to where you don't have to have such a long vacation after releasing the game. Because I feel like that really long wait for the first patch loses a bunch of people. I mean, games as a service that live or die by the release cadence.
I wonder how true that is. Because, I mean, even the FF14 devs have commented, like, yeah, we expect you to play for a bunch when a new expansion comes out, and then take a break and do something else and come back and enjoy it. And then if you need to take a break again, go take a break and then come back and enjoy it.
I feel like there may be the aberration.
I mean, they're definitely the aberration as far as that like mentality goes, but it seems to be working for them.
But so much of the games as a service model right now is grab the eyeballs, wrap them up so tight that they can't play any other game.
Yeah. And I wonder how much that mentality, there are so many games that are trying to be that I don't think that any of them can succeed. Or maybe like the one big one can succeed, which is what we saw with WoW.
Well, and to be honest, like I'm not playing Destiny right now for that reason. I mean, their seasonal cadence, they hit it, but the fact that stuff cycled out meant there was never a time where I could ever catch up and have experienced all the things. So what's the point of even playing? Like,
yeah.
Whereas SWTOR, for example, they don't have a great release cadence anymore, but it is the sort of game that I can return to at any point and gobble up the content and then happily leave again. And honestly, 14 is the same way. Yeah.
As is Guild Wars. Guild Wars is also the same way. And I think it's interesting to see like hitting that perfect balance between these are enough people, like this is enough for people to have something to do if they don't want to stop playing, but not so much that people feel like they have to always be logging in or they're going to get left forever behind.
And I think that's it, is like that there's enough content to have that fun moment like 6 months down the road of returning and feeling like you have all this stuff to do. Because like when I've done that in 14, it feels great. Like, oh God, I have all this stuff to do. It's cool. Whereas a game like Destiny, it feels punitive for me not to be playing.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm not willing to pour in, hundreds of hours a season, then like, why am I even playing?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the last time I played WoW, I hit a thing where I realized every day I didn't play, I was falling behind. Every time I did not max out the thing that I was max out my things for the day, I was falling behind the curve. And I was like, I'm out. Absolutely not. Do I want to feel shackled to this game?
And that's been a repeating thing with WoW's in-game systems, is they've had artifact power, they've had the corruption system where every day you can do a thing that helps you build up resistance to where you can equip more corruption. Like they've had all these systems that involve doing a thing every day to collect the thing, to be able to get your one chance at a thing a week.
Yeah, and I hate logging into a game to do chores.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't want to do it. Like, I happen to do my dailies in Guild Wars every so often, but like mostly because I like to do the dailies in Guild Wars when I'm like, I want to play this game, but I'm not doing anything specific, so I'll do the dailies.
Yeah.
But if I felt like I had to log in and do the dailies every day just to stay relevant, like I'd quit.
Yeah, because the nice thing about the dailies is they vary a lot from day to day. Like they're not the same thing every day. They're real quick usually, and you can pick 3 out of like a total of 8 if you're willing to do world v world. And you do those 3 and you've got the big daily reward.
Yeah. And like if there's even beyond that, there's like the seasonal dailies and there's all the other stuff. Like each season has its own set of dailies and there's dailies here. There's a bunch of places where you can go do that. But also like I don't have to.
Yeah.
The other thing that I hate that games do in a services model is they like force the player to play all the content in the game, not just the content that they like.
Mm-hmm.
So every so often, Destiny has had these things where you can collect a set of gear, and then you do a bunch of stuff to upgrade that set of gear, and do a bunch of stuff to upgrade that set of gear, and it basically gives you a way to buffer the start of the next thing, the next content drop. Because you walk into the content drop with better stuff. But the problem is like, so I've done this before. Like, I've collected the super special appearance of the gear before. This time, they put Trials of well, I don't know what it's. I don't know if it's still Trials of Osiris or if it's Trials of the Nine or whatever it's called now. But basically, the pinnacle
Serious
matchmaking
PvP
thing.
Yay.
So, yeah, like I didn't even start it. Like, why would I bother starting it if it's got this thing that I just won't do? Anyway, I feel like we could keep this topic going for a while. We may need to shelve it and pick it up another week because we've gone significantly over. Because I thought this would be a quick topic, and it's not quick at all. Like,
You should have
It was a
known
trap.
better.
I should have known better. Anyway, any final quick thoughts? Okay. Hopefully everyone enjoyed the show. I think it was actually a really good one, to be truthful. And we will see you all next week. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
night.
Good night.
Oh, man, we don't have Ash saying see ya.
Aw.
See ya.
I'll see you.
Okay.
See ya.
See ya.